All right, class, we are now entering chapter 13. We will get into our first section of products and services, and this again will relate primarily to consumers. So you and I, again, we all represent businesses. We'll talk about that next, but let's focus in now on consumers and how they have the ability to influence global markets. So when we think about international marketers and you just see the opportunities and challenges that come with that job and that title, talk about a couple things here. So new consumers are springing up in emerging markets in Eastern Europe, the Commonwealth of Independent States, China and other Asian countries, India, Latin American markets discussed in detail in chapters 9 through 11. And remember going through those and talked about those. Although currently not economically strong markets, some of these countries and regions have great potential to become huge markets in the future. The Disney strategy in the opening vignette is an example of how a multinational company takes advantage of a global opportunity. The trend for larger firms is toward becoming global in orientation and strategy. When it comes to U.S. exports targeting consumers, the totals are about evenly split among three major categories of durable goods, such as cars and computers. Non-durable goods, mainly food, drugs, toys, and services, for example, tourism and telecommunications, definitely have a playing a role in it as well. So again, you're seeing as we set up this chapter and we think about it, we think about the growing markets, we think about how the U.S. can impact those markets specific to those countries. Again, we go back to what we've talked about over and over and over again, and that's making sure that we are aligning our ability to grow and understand and be a part of these countries' culture with what they truly need and truly will buy. Let's talk quality just for a minute. Customers worldwide are now more than ever more savvy and knowledgeable about products and services. They are demanding better and high quality products. They are also looking for innovative products to fit their changing lifestyles. Customers have more choices with more companies competing for their attention. More competition and more choices means more power in the hands of the customer, driving the need for quality. And today, the customer knows what is best, cheapest, and highest quality, largely due to the internet and smartphones. When you think about this, and we've all been there, we're going to get there where we want to buy a home, we want to build a home, we want to get a car, a new vehicle, we want to pick a school for our kid, we want to put our kid into a private lesson of some, whether it be karate or sports or something like that. We choose restaurants. So when you go through all of those buying decisions, again, we're always going to think about price, but what the text is telling us here and what the trends are telling us is that quality is becoming just as important as price, if not more so. And that's something that, again, we're as a consumer, we're going to continue to think about. Outside of just the US, again, it's something that we need to think about as well, whether we're marketing to Europe, Southeast Asia, um, Africa, it doesn't matter. These are things that we need to consider, both as a marketer and as a user and a consumer as well. The relationship of quality and price to customer satisfaction is similar to an airline's delivery of quality. If viewed internally from the firm's perspective, performance quality, an airline has achieved quality performance with a safe flight and landing. But because the consumer expects performance quality to be given, a quality to the consumer is more than compliance, a safe flight and landing. Cost, timely service, frequency of flights, comfortable seating, and performance of the airline personnel from check-in to baggage claim are all part of the customer's experience that is perceived as being of good or poor quality. Such market perceived quality attributes are embedded in the total product. Fairtrade USA provides a certification that ensures that farmers in emerging economies receive a fair price for the coffee, tea, chocolate, rice, and other products they produce instead of selling at the lower market value to a middleman. Quality is also measured in many industries by objective third parties such as J.D. Power and Associates. Physical and mandatory requirements and adaptation definitely is ever changing as well. Some needed changes are obvious with relatively little analysis. A cursory examination of a country will uncover the need to rewire electrical goods for a different voltage system. Simplify a product when the local level of technology is not high, or print multilingual labels where required by law. Changes may also have to be made to accommodate climate differences. General Motors, for example, of Canada, experienced a major problem with several thousand Chevrolet automobiles shipped to a Middle Eastern country. GM quickly discovered they were unfit for the hot, dusty climate. Supplementary air filters and different clutches had to be added to adjust for the problem. And again, these are things that you need to think about going into it and the adaptation that you have to have as you do so. Since the introduction of the eco-label idea, Hoover washing machines have been the only products that have gained approval for the eco-label. By winning the symbol, Hoover has tripled its market share in Germany and doubled its share of the premium sector of the UK washing machine market. Currently, between 50% and 65% of the weight of the packaging must be recovered, meaning in my industry, that means it needs to be recycled content going back into the packaging. And between 25% and 40% of the weight of the totality of the packaging materials contained in packaging waste will be recycled. Again, that's on the back end of the discussion. This discussion is just yet another example of the need to adapt products for global marketing. Adaptation of the non-physical features of a product may be necessary for maximum bundle satisfaction and positive product attributes. Adaptation may require changes of any one or all of the psychological aspects of a product. Coca-Cola found it had to change Diet Coke to Coke Light when it was introduced in Japan. Japanese women do not like to admit to dieting because the idea of a diet implies sickness or medicine. So instead of emphasizing weight loss, figure maintenance is stressed. Anti-American sentiment is also causing Coke problems with Muslim consumers. The more innovative a product is perceived to be, the more difficult it is to gain market acceptance. The more technical or complicated the product is, it is more difficult to move it through the product life cycle. So again, as a marketer, we have to think about, especially overseas and where we're marketing to other countries, the perception of how difficult something is to use from a technical nature, or really how easy it is to be accepted. Those are things that you need to consider before we just market a product. This is kind of interesting dynamic around toilet innovations. So the Japanese and the Dutch are the world's champions in toilet innovations. Japan's long history of crowding has prompted a culture to focus on cleanliness, frequent bathing, and high-tech bathrooms. Thus, the toilet reads your body weight, temperature, and blood pressure. These are some developments in Japan. Soon you will also be able to get a readout on glucose and protein levels on your urinal. The Dutch are also worried about plumbing. Much of their country is below sea level, and this produces a urinal. So they produce a urinal for women and a fly embedded in the porcelain for their men's urinal. The latter reduces maintenance cost as the company's research has shown that most men will aim for the fly, which is strategically placed to minimize splash. Both Dutch innovations can be seen in the Schiphol airport outside of Amsterdam. Other interesting innovations in toilets around the world are about half of the US states. Hong Kong and Singapore have passed laws requiring more toilets for women. Senga has designed new mini-games for men's restrooms that are controlled by players' urine. A low-cost sanitary toilet has been designed especially for slums and around the world that includes easy collection of waste for conversion to fertilizer. So all very interesting things that are developing. Let's talk core component just for a minute. The physical product and all of its functional features should be examined as potential candidates for adaptation. In markets where hot water is not commonly available, washing machines have heaters as a functional feature in other markets. Automatic soap and bleach dispensers may be eliminated to cut costs or to minimize repair problems. A near and dear concept to me, packaging components. High humidity or the need for long shelf life because of extended distribution systems may dictate extra heavy packaging for same products. In Saudi Arabia, for example, product names must be specific. Hot chili will not do. It must be spiced hot chili. Prices are required to be printed on the labels in Venezuela, but in Chile, putting prices on the labels or in any way suggesting retail prices is illegal. Under the new Chinese labeling law, however, food products must have their name, contents, and other specifics listed clearly in Chinese printed directly on the package. No temporary labels are allowed. Here, Japanese internet purchasers often prefer to pay cash and in person rather than trust the internet transaction or pay high credit card fees. Students in Japan listen to lectures, take notes, and ask questions only after class, if then. Conversely, Spaniards are used to large undergraduate classes, hundreds rather than dozens. They tend to talk to their friends even when the instructor is talking. Hey guys, that's not cool. While trips of 10 to 20% are an important part of service workers' incentives in the United States, this is not the case in Germany, where tips are rounded to the nearest euro. Thus, closer management of service personnel is required in those countries to maintain high levels of customer satisfaction. Heinz produces a multitude of products that are sold under the Heinz brand all over the world. Many are also adapted to local tastes. Even for products that must be adapted to local market conditions, a global brand can be successfully used with careful consideration. Consumers in Eastern cultures may be more likely to understand and appreciate brand extensions because of their more holistic thinking than consumers in Western cultures with their more analytical thinking patterns. I think we can recognize that being in the US, that we are certainly more that way. Consumers have broad but somewhat vague stereotypes about specific countries and specific product categories that they judge best. English tea, French perfume, Chinese silk, Italian leather, Japanese electronics, Jamaican rum, and so on. Stereotyping of this nature is typically product specific and may not extend to other categories of products from these countries. Honda, which manufactures one of its models almost entirely in the United States, recognizes ethocentrism phenomenon and points out how many component parts are made in America in some of its advertisements. Industrialized countries have the highest quality image, and products from developing countries generally counter bias. As they say, two brands are better than one. How about four? The four flags you see flying on the radar mast of the Endeavour at sea among the Galapagos Islands represent Ecuador at the bottom, the Bahamas registry of the 85-person cruise ship. This is on the right. The National Geographic Society and the Lindblad Expeditions. The latter two are a great example of co-branding, the multifaceted strategic alliance that Lindblad Expeditions has with the National Geographic Society. This enables travelers to participate in the world of natural and cultural history as engaged, active explorers who care about the planet. This is an alliance of two exploration pioneers in an innovative program to reach remote and pristine destinations around the globe. Sustainable and education based tourism is featured by the Alliance.